Hi, I have a question.
Okay, I'll just add to it because it's very important for the audience. Performance doesn't guarantee potential, but yes, performance, and that's one of the biggest dichotomies. Based on just the performance, people are promoted, and that's the biggest challenge that the managers in the later stage face, because you are planning for a disaster of an individual who is a great performer in his current role, but the moment based on the performance you are putting a person at a higher role and he is not able to perform 2 years, 3 years, you will find that this person is struggling, and therefore the assessment of a potential in a true sense becomes critical. So don't promote people just based on somebody is doing great perform or performing great on his current role. He must show that potential based on what we talked about. It requires a thorough process.
So, if I can ask two questions to everyone, if it's okay. Does anyone have a burning important question that you want to ask? One, just one more?
I have one question.
I have one question.
Okay, just two more then, yeah.
Okay, I have a question here. Right here.
Yeah, please.
I represent WNS Global Services, and I have a quick question. So we have been trying to, have an hypothesis of various discussions on what should be the new brainwave of performance management system, right? However, the discussion is more towards what is the future going to be. Are we ready for the entire change in the movement from a bell curve? What if in the world of evaluation and assessment there's no bell curve, right? In my view, one question that I have for the entire panel, anybody can ask. So there is something called as power law distribution or a Paretian distribution, which is very different from a bell curve. Bell curve talks about performance and compensation put together, but Paretian talks about only those inordinate performers who can be looked at without measuring them on just performance or compensation. Most of the organizations have started working on the experience of considering a normal distribution curve only to manage their compensation budgets and not performance, right? Some of the organizations are talking about evaluating managers' effort towards having a better communication during their performance appraisals rather than just looking at the overall evaluation of that stuff. So my question to the panel is that in the years to come, as a future state, do you think that bell curve can be eradicated, or is it going to be a parallel process to just review compensation? Thank you.
Okay, so I'll request the panel to answer this question last, because it's one of the questions I wanted to ask, and I wanted it to be a little broader. I wanted to ask them to imagine how will the performance management process system look in 2050. And one aspect that I would like them to cover is what will happen to the curve and whether it will be a different curve and so on.
2050 you have to work.
So 20, that's the last question. So I'll request if the panel can take the next question and then answer this one finally.
Hi, good evening.
Yeah.
My question, my name is Kaustup. I come from software organization TCS. My question to Kavita and for yourself, Anand.
Yeah.
Recently, we were discussing about culture being outcome centric, culture becoming more result centric. Efforts are not so much valued. But there is a peril to it, there is danger to it, and I want your views on that. There is a situation where I will give a sports example. Tendulkar or whoever is, Tendulkar not playing, but maybe Virat Kohli is playing really well, but he gets out because of bad decision by the umpire. Okay, he's out. But that's objective, people will not blame it, performance will not be blamed there. I'm extrapolating this example to the IT. Team is performing really well. They are giving their output the best, working round the clock on the weekends. But there are external factors because of which the project fails. For example, it's a multi-vendor environment, new project, client is not supporting the team, client's boss wants new vendor to come in. Now client is misguiding and things are not working out, but team is really doing well. So things are subjective, things are hazy, and at the end, in spite of giving best performance, team fails. So how is the organization supposed to assess this team or the individuals? How are they going to treat the evaluation in terms of when we are saying outcome centric or result centric, where the efforts have been excellent but the results are not achieved?
I think very good question. I'll probably take it, Kavita. So, Cognos is probably still a hot skill. It was much hotter skill several years ago. And I was a HR business partner for a unit where the client was asking for it, and there was a competitor at the door providing, and it was a critical project for a very large retail company. And nobody raised their hand and said that, I want to go and try. There was one individual who raised his hand and said that, look, I don't know this, but I think I can figure it out. He went to the client side, he did what he could, but was not found to be adequate, was thrown back. And I still remember that, in that particular year, I insisted that that individual be promoted. And today, after 10 years, I can say that individual has done so much for the company in terms of winning clients, turning around projects and so on. It's definitely not a very, very machine-like decision at that point. But at the same time, right, therefore there has to be an intervention, a managerial intervention. That to the other question that somebody asked, does the manager's role come down because the information is there? Manager's role increases because the email won't do the job. I mean, we will answer that question. So I think there is definitely need for an intervention. But at the same time, somewhere we are imagining that it is one single event, like Tendulkar getting out because of a wrong umpiring decision. That's not how life is. There are several events. And in several events, that whole syndrome may not happen. And why an outcome-centric shift is perhaps important in current times is because you are trying to evolve, right? A lot of things are changing. Therefore, you want individuals to have a discretion in terms of how they will achieve that outcome. Therefore, it is probably very well when everybody is unclear about how exactly stuff will happen, you are asking an intelligent person on the ground to pretty much figure out how to reach the result. Therefore, my personal reaction is that outcome shift is a very natural and healthy shift to the change and the dynamism that we see around us. And if it is a series of many events that are outcome centric, no problem, because it's not going to be one call. But if there is one critical call, that is where the manager's intervention and the system recognizing that and actually communicating that yes, we know your customer turned you back, but you are the only one among 1,000 people who put his hand and said that's a version that nobody has done before, I will try. I think that communication at that instant and doing a very counterintuitive thing will engage the individual to the organization like no other and actually grow that person. So it's a very big opportunity to actually deviate. All deviations for the right cause are actually extraordinary points of individualization of performance management that somebody talked about in the panel, right? So that's the fairness of it. I think that's an opportunity that we should see, and as long as it's a series of events, then it's very well for it to be results or outcome centric, because the world is changing and we want an intelligent employee to pretty much decide how he or she will achieve that outcome. I think that's the...
Good evening. Yeah, my name is Arun. I am from Tata Bristol Steel. Towards the beginning of this, I think panel discussion, we spoke a lot about the number, the significance of a number. Ultimately, it's all about the ratings and the number that people are looking for. And then we also took the example of Microsoft, where they are trying to build pretty subjective factors like learning, ability, and collaboration, and kind of stuff which is pretty difficult to, I think, quantify. If I take the example of two salespeople, for example, just to draw an illustration. Now, both of these people are able to meet up with the targets to the similar, maybe same extent. But still, there is one person who is pretty good in team working, the person is pretty approachable, he is good to work with, and people feel like working with him. There is another person who is pretty brash, and maybe he's a little, he rubs people the wrong way, and then he's pretty kind of in a different zone of himself. And then, if you make a comparison between both these people, do you feel that performance appraisal can also cover an aspect which is difficult to kind of quantify, something which is yet very important for the organization?
So what do we do with factors which are appearing very subjective, like in the Microsoft example, and how do you really handle that subjectivity while you are making a decision? Have I captured it correctly? Yeah.
I think I do not really have the details about the Microsoft's current systems. I read it in the news items as such. And if I look at both, these are connected with the impact. So one way, if you look at this system, that suppose someone who's really creating a bad team, interactions with the team, but still getting the numbers, and the other one who is having a good team relations but not being able to deliver results, both of them are going to have equally bad results, impacts. So how long the company is going to persist with any one of them is something which the company management has to take a call. But none of them are actually desirable behavior from any of the managers.
Okay, so can I request the panel to answer the 2050 question? How would you imagine performance management will look in 2050? What will happen? I mean, describe it more than really describe what will happen in a day in a performance management process in 2050.
I feel that eventually it's going to be more automated, wherein there would be, a good mechanism developed among the industries in terms of gauging an individual performance or giving a real-time feedback. So there could be, maybe an online, offline kind of, dashboards being prepared at different, functional level, which would be more easier at the manager's end to ensure that how to monitor how his team member is being performing, and that will definitely help the performance system as a whole to make it more easier in terms of deciding in terms of whether it to be kept on a quarterly basis, half yearly basis, or a yearly basis. In terms of the bell curve we are talking about, the curve will be there, whether it will be a bell curve or not, that can be decided depending upon the organization eventually. But in terms of systems, I think automation will play an important role out here.
Okay. Your take.
Actually saying 2050, that means we have to continue to work to 2050 to be able to answer that question. But if I have to view, my personal view is personal connect will be on the rise. It's not going to reduce. I see a lot of employees coming in for counseling these days. Earlier it was like if you are on your various gadgets, you are cool. But now there are a lot of employees coming in for human interaction, even apart from work-related issues. Given the fact that we are going to have managers as coaches in the future who are going to be propelling, and taking the business by leaps and bounds, I definitely see, an interaction with employees to be much more stronger. I see a no-cabin workforce. We're all sitting on one floor, and a lot of interaction. The manager can be sitting next to you. Your manager 3 levels up can also be sitting across your table. Those silos will actually be broken down in my view. The second change that I see in 2050 is, I go back to the Deloitte example. There was this huge research that was done, and what they found was the effect which is called as the idiosyncratic rater effect. They found that when you have, and this was done across 4,500 employees, and each one of them had 2 peer raters and 2 team ratings as well as 2 manager ratings. They found that when the manager rates an employee, say on strategic thinking, as an example, it is the manager's perception of how important is strategic thinking to me, which is point number 1. The second is how well do I do strategic thinking, and how important it is to the organization. That will definitely impact my view of how the employee is on strategic thinking. So that is more a rater effect. It is not. It is a perception of how the ratee is doing. So what they've actually done is they had series of questions, and they tweaked around the wordings till they got the right words, and this took them over a year, which is the entire of 2014. And this is a trend that will soon catch up. The final summary of this entire research, and it's available on, very simply on Google. They changed 4 questions towards the end, because they found that as an appraiser, if you have to rate your appraisee, if you have to remove this perception that the manager can have on the employee's performance or one particular skill, let's change that to what you would actually do. So as a manager, the questions that I would receive is, if all things remain the same, would I give this employee the maximum incentive? If all things remain the same, would I continue to have this person in my team forever? In my view, the third question was, in my view, I don't think this employee or this employee needs help to perform better. So if the questions are on what is it that you as a manager would do, what is it that the responses are tending towards good performance, medium performance, low performance. So that's one change, that's one trend that's catching on. So yes, you will continue to have outcome goals, and numbers will definitely play very important. We are all listed organizations, and even if like a Tendulkar, I don't really hit a home run like what Kaustubh said, I'm not going to be given a second chance by the public. I'm going to be watched for every move I make. So this is a change that I definitely see coming up in the future years, where it's going to be outcome plus, in order to remove this rater effect, or in order to remove this imbalance that each rater will have when they are rating their team. Somebody else will be very strict, somebody is going to be very lenient. There is going to be a shift on the questions that go into your appraisal.
Very interesting take. I think use analysis, stats, experimentation to make sure that you remove biases and make them very valid. Yeah. Okay. Something?
I think my take is by that time the two parts of, if I look at today the performance management, we are talking one side on the numbers and the other side is on the developmental discussions. So my take would be is that by that time this numbers part would be totally being through analytics. So there would be no discussions with the managers levels and the employees where we will talk about the numbers. It's a goal which the organization sets, and there would be an algorithm which will actually cascade down to the lowest level, that what's the expected outcome from every employee, and it would be transparent and people can see it at any point of time that how is he behaving or doing, and that's how it's going to be at that point of time. And the discussion would be more towards the developmental discussions. So it would be more on career counseling, it would be more on towards how part of the numbers getting achieved. And I would say that if I look at some of the research and the studies on the millennials which we are of late seeing, the discussion will be more rich. So it's more towards purpose of the role, it's more towards the society connect, community connect. So these are something which currently are totally unheard of or just about to start getting started, would be more frequent at that point of time. So that's how I look at it.
I think a lot is going to remain, and fundamentally the appraiser and the appraisee is going to remain.
Yeah.
Shantanu said it, and I was right in the beginning talking about the fundamentals of platforms are going to be extremely agile. The platforms which are going to come today, it's all just a process in terms of logistics that I see. Today's platforms, those are going to be extremely agile with fundamental data for taking decisions, and on a real-time basis, maybe on a daily basis, instead of waiting for the world of annual performance, I think will completely die off, and the interactions are going to be more frequent between the people, the appraiser and the appraisee, the peer group, everywhere. I think the information flow today, formally it has to be created, then the interactions happen. I believe that is not going to be the way. That will become live, agile, active, and the platforms, algorithms will do everything for you. The sensors will create all the information to the platforms, and platforms will be live available to everyone.
I believe some kind of performance app would be developed in 2050, wherein things would be very fast, and I think both for the appraisee and the appraiser, in terms of getting the feedback or gauging his own performance, or from the appraiser's point of view in terms of ensuring how its person is doing. I think probably that time would come.
The number game may go over, but as I said, when you are dealing with humans, emotions are the key, and that is going to remain. That interaction is going to be more on that part, the softer part.
Okay, that was I think an excellent discussion. Would you agree? Okay, glad that you got some value out of this discussion. I think life is not very simple. If it was simple, we would have put 10 points on the notice board and said read it. The very fact that we are assembled here and debating is because life is a little bit more nuanced. I think we started by asking each panelist what their business is like and what problems they are trying to solve, and then we tried to ask them how do their performance management systems speak to those challenges, and what are the challenges that they are themselves tackling. I think a few things in terms of making the system more usable, more real time, I think more technologically enabled, more fair based on analytics, remove biases. I think those are the things that shown through across. I think the re-emphasis on development and the very business of the system is to improve an individual performance, to help that individual do better than without the system. I think somewhere we all felt that that goal is sort of diluted, and therefore we need to bring that back, right here and now. And we need to make sure technology enables the results computation, and analytics ensures that we make a fair assessment of things like potential and so on. And I think the panel had an excellent view from their vantage points on how 2050 will look like. And more importantly, I think a lot of good questions came from the audience, and that was very, very interesting. And thanks so much for hearing us patiently, and may you continue to think, innovate, and tell us what you are doing. Thank you so much.
Panelists, for the enlightening discussion and for sharing your views with us. I'm sure each one of us is taking back a lot of valuable insights. A special thanks to all the participants as well for being such an interactive audience. I now invite Ms. Madhuri Sathe, Group Director, Indira Group of Institutes, Pune, to present a token of appreciation to our esteemed panelists. We start with Mr. Vimal Malhotra. A big round of applause, please. Ms. Manjula Rao. Mr. R. Anand. Ms. Kavita Kulkarni. And Mr. Santanu Ghoshal. Thank you, panelists. You may now please take your seats off stage. May I now invite Dr. Shriram S. Narlekar for the closing address. Dr. Narlekar is a seasoned professional with nearly 14 years of rich experience in strategic planning, general administration, business development, educational planning, faculty management, and student relations in academic sector. He is proficient in liaising with various government bodies, handling administration, operations, faculty development, system development, branding, and marketing for the institute. Dr. Narlekar, please.
It's my proud privilege to stand in front of this august gathering to present quickly the closing address. And let me assure you that I'm going to restrict myself for 5 minutes for two reasons. One, the organizers have specifically told me that probably they are worried that a professor taking hold of a mic may go on talking for 90 minutes of lecture. And the second one, for all practical reasons, I know that I'm standing between you and cocktails and dinner. So I would definitely restrict myself to not more than 5 minutes. As education partner of this event, on behalf of Marathwada Mitra Mandal Group of Institutes, Pune, I first of all sincerely share my compliments with HR Conclave, Shine HR Conclave of Hindustan Times for creating such a wonderful professional platform for discussions and deliberations on some critical issues in business in general and HR in particular. I also sincerely thank all the distinguished panelists for such a thought-provoking, wonderful discussion that led us to several conclusions and solutions. Marathwada Mitramandal Group of Institutes was founded 48 years ago in the year 1967, and the beginning was very humble. We just started as a hostel for providing accommodation for students coming from Marathwada region for their higher education in Pune. And in this entire journey of last 48 years, the group has expanded to host 4 sprawling campuses and facilities in Pune, hosting 10 institutes, providing education to close to 20,000 students every year. And it's driven with its motto of Yethe Bahutan Se Hitar, that is welfare of masses. Quality has always remained our priority. And that is the reason we kept on striving for constant interface, interactions and strategic tie-ups with industry. To name a few, Marathwada Mitramandal College of Engineering, Karvenagar, Pune, has developed a center of excellence with persistent systems. It has also developed a skill development center along with Zensor. Volkswagen has joined hands with us and developed a practical lab at our diploma college in our Kalewadi campus. The flagship Management Institute of Marathwada, that is Institute of Management Education Research and Training, IMERT, has developed several strategic MOUs, to name a few, of our National Stock Exchange, wherein we are offering the certification program in capital markets, the Indus entrepreneurs, so on and so forth. On behalf of my entire team, Dr. S.M. Deshpande, Principal of Engineering College, Rahul Jagtap, Prasad Mule, and Ajit Kalmarkar, Deputy Director, Corporate Relations, we look forward for such constant interactions with the business fraternity, HR fraternity in and around Pune, and we look forward to welcome you on our all campuses. I thank you so much.